Progressivism. It hasn't been too progressive for the middle-class Americans. We're worse off than we were 20 years ago.
You were listening to Wealth Talks with the McPhees. Americans age 51 through 58, earning $38,000 to $114,000 a year. This group of people are worse off when it comes to life expectancy, worse off when it comes to home ownership, worse off when it comes to their general wealth. They're facing some challenges in our environment today.
They are. And less than 25% of this age group has $10,000 in savings ready for retirement.
Well, and I'm thinking, so this is an age range of 51 to 58. Not all of our listeners by far are in that age group. So, but we're not suggesting that people over that age group or younger than that age group are better off.
No. And you have, this is a group, not everybody's going to be the same in a group, but absolutely, this is kind of an average. We're looking at a very specific window here, but yes, there are definitely a lot more windows that we can look through, aren't there?
There are. What caused this predicament? It's kind of the same thinking that said, oh, no, let's get rid of plastic straws. We got to get rid of them. They're these PFAS, these polyfluoroalkyl substances that are going to pollute the world and kill all the fish. And now we find that the paper straws they replaced them with are worse off than the plastic ones.
And did you notice, too, that our plastic straws usually come in a paper wrapper? And yet the paper straws were often in plastic wrappers.
Yeah.
So you just can't, like a friend of ours says, you just can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. Something even more recent than that is the N95 mask that everyone said was the surefire way to keep from having COVID. And now we find out that those masks have 8 times the recommended safety levels of deadly toxic volatile organic-based compounds called TVOCs that cause all kinds of problems.
That was quite a bit of alphabet soup there. What does that mean?
Oh my goodness.
What does that mean exactly?
My eyes glazed over.
Well, I mean, there you go. The Cochrane Institute shows that little to no difference was made by wearing the face mask as far as getting COVID, but these toxic chemicals have caused lung damage, respiratory problems, and other issues like cancer.
Okay.
So
we don't have to know what they're called, but we know what they do.
We do, and if you wear that mask for more than 4 hours, it even goes up. Those side effects go up. So this progressiveness is the same type of thing that told middle-class Americans, all you have to do is put money in your 401k or your IRA, and you're going to be just fine come retirement. Or they listen to people that say, make extra payments on your house payment, scrimp and save right now and get your house paid off so that you'll have a good retirement. And now we're finding they don't even have $10,000 saved.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. And oftentimes, all these the plastic straws or masks or what they tell us about saving money, all of these things, we can't just blindly follow whatever's being told to us because as we've seen with the straws and the masks, the wind shifts. And suddenly we're told the opposite. The plastic straws with the paper wrappers aren't good, and now it's the paper straws with the plastic wrappers, and now I think we're back to the plastic straws. Or what about the metal straws? Well, then they started talking about the germs that couldn't be cleaned out, and all of that. We have to use some common sense.
We do.
And I remember years ago my mother saying she found out that common sense just wasn't that common. And, I think it was as true in her days as it was for my grandmother and her grandmother. And now here I am. I'm realizing that common sense just isn't that common.
Well, I think that a lot of people think that progress is just mere change. Well, one of my favorite people, David Barton from Wall Builders, recently said that, this has been working for 400 years. Let's just change it so we can be progressive.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind a lot of things. And that's what really got a lot of people in trouble that are middle-aged right now, is we thought we knew better than our ancestors about a lot of things. And that the scripture tells us we're not supposed to be hastily moving the ancient boundary stone. Those stones and boundaries were set up because it works. Things work because there are certain laws in nature and laws that are established by nature's God that you can't violate. And when you do, you pay the consequences, and those consequences might not come for several years down the road. So you don't really even connect the A and the B. It just happened, and you don't know what went wrong.
Well, I think about some advances that we have made, like in technology. So, years ago, if someone went on a journey, they hoped to get a letter or maybe something by the Pony Express. And now we carry around our phones in our pockets, and we can text and we can call. But then there are some disadvantages of phones, or can be, if we haven't learned how to control them properly. So, they can come to control our lives. We can be using them in a way that is unhealthy to us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all those things. So again, we have to use these tools as long as they are tools and be cautious and careful of how they could become a hindrance or a detriment to our lives.
And all progress isn't measured the same. A government might say progress is, now we have more control over our populace, our people, our citizens, where that wouldn't be progress to individuals at all. That would be a regression. Banks might think it's very much progress for them to be able to charge high interest rates and really restrict the flow of money. But that isn't progress for you and I. And so when we see banks and government and bureaucrats becoming more and more progressive, quote unquote, and getting what they want, that means that we're not getting what I want. You're not getting what you want. And that's why we've got Social Security, that's going to go bankrupt in 2033. Why Medicare is going to crash before that, because government got what it wanted. It spent all that money, and now there's nothing left for us.
It's interesting with when the government gets involved in something, they often tend to make the problem worse. You can look at this example with Social Security. It was supposed to be an insurance program for old age.
That's what it was sold to the American public as.
Obviously,
insurance.
It's become a big boondoggle that has incurred a much greater expense than was ever anticipated by most people that were supporting that. And number two, government has become involved in the education system. The quality of the education has gone down, while the cost has gone up.
Oh, certainly.
That's a classic example. And then you even look back, which is kind of tying into the financial element of our conversation today, where we're talking about those, that home ownership is low for average Americans. You look back in the early 2000s, and there was a big campaign, government-backed campaign, by the way, to help people become homeowners. Yes. Interest rates were kept to a very low amount. They were trying to promote home ownership, right? And so you had these. This is what led up to the crash that happened 2005 to 2008. Las Vegas area was particularly hard hit, and some other areas of the country, but Las Vegas was often in the news on that. It was hard hit when people who had purchased homes ended up not being able to afford them.
And then what happened is that people with lots of capital came in, and here in Las Vegas, bought up everything under $100,000, then bought up everything under $200,000, and now they're working on everything under $300,000, and that just makes it harder and harder for first-time homeowners to get a home.
It does. And so home ownership peaked in 2005, and now it has been coming down since then. Now we're back to about 1999 levels.
Wow.
That's really...
So government has not solved the problem that it set out, but it has massively expanded our debt in the effort to do so.
Well, and something I don't know that you have the statistics and are prepared to talk about this, John, but just the other day we were talking about the statistics of jobs. and how jobs have been decreased. But when you look in recent years, but when you look the jobs of private sectors, private businesses have really decreased while the number of government jobs has escalated.
I do know
And that's concerning too.
I do know the number of government jobs is up. You're right. I'm not prepared with the statistics on that, but that is a concerning trend.
Yes.
That's a socialistic progressive trend. And it's a success for government, but it's not a success for the average American.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about John,
this government
more.
regulation. Yes, it reminds me of the Dr. Seuss story, where this village hires a watcher to watch a bee, make sure that the bee is working as hard as it needs to. And then pretty soon they have to hire a watcher to watch the watcher. Mm-hmm. And then a watcher to watch, and so you just add on to that. That is the story of government bureaucracy. At some point, there has to be some level of trust or nothing happens, or else the bureaucracy gets to be so overwhelmingly tyrannical that it crushes the underlying production that it was meant to oversee.
And of course, it's our responsibility of individuals in America, because our constitutional form of government was set up for the people to control it. And we have stepped back from our obligation and duty to do that. And we need to do that. And one of the ways that we can do that is financially. We have to have the finances to be able to do that, which brings us back to, middle-aged people don't have the finances to even take care of themselves, let alone to influence government.
It's hard, yeah, because that voice of the people, it's very hard. Our system of government is not designed for one individual or two individuals, a small group to come in and take over for everybody. It's not designed for that. It's meant, you have to get a group of people, a majority together to make meaningful changes. In a positive direction. And so, when we're talking about these averages, that is a problem, because the average, there are going to be certain people in this group that have the financial resources, some of them, but as a group, they need to have the financial resources to be able to make a difference.
That's right, because we don't want one or two individuals to come in and dominate the field. That's what's happening in politics right now, is we've got these big corporate donors that influence politics that aren't in the interest of the average American citizen. And so that is one of the reasons that I was so enticed by listening to Nelson Nash when he talked about becoming your own banker.
Yes.
Life insurance, participating whole life insurance, the type that we use, predates the IRS code. That means it's been around for 150, 200 years in many cases. And there are things that the IRS code can't control in it. And so when you earn a dividend in participating whole life insurance, it's not taxed. It can go to buy more death benefit. And when it buys more death benefit, it produces more cash value than if you took the dividend as a cash payment. That's huge. That is fighting against the inflationary monetary policy of the Federal Reserve. Whole life insurance also allows us to access our cash value and use it, unlike 401ks and IRAs, which have forced you to lock that away till you're 59 and a half or longer if you're still working, and not be able to use it. And it's the use of capital that creates wealth. The Rothschilds once said, "Give me the control over the money, and I don't care who writes the laws." And we need to understand that that's what Nelson Nash was trying to do, is to give us control over our own money, because then it doesn't matter about certain laws. They don't apply to us when we have the capital to do what we need to do.
Well, one of Nelson's rules was about, he called it the golden rule. He said, he who has the gold makes the rules. Yeah. And so when we have a little bit of gold, we have a little control over our money, we can make some of our own rules that we're going to be able to live by and make our environment better, make our life, our situation.
And when you think about the American system here, how it has to be a group of people to make the voice of the people heard, a sufficiently large group. How do the people get their voice to be heard? Politically, that is often done through political parties, Okay, it's not always an efficient process, but that is how the voice of the people was meant to be projected through that. How does that work when we come to finances? Well, one of the ways that can work is by people grouping together through mutual insurance companies to accomplish a common purpose, a common objective. And that's one of the reasons that we use life insurance as a financial tool as we're talking to people about building a financial foundation.
You know, I was talking to a farmer's agent the other day, and he does mostly property and casualty type insurance. And he was telling me that farmers now no longer insures any property in California for more than $2 million.
Wow.
Geico has pulled out of California, so has State Farm.
Okay, now why?
Because the claims are way too high and they can't do it. And it came to the fact that the insurance commissioner in California ran on the ticket that he would cap the cost of insurance.
So the costs are going up, but they can't raise the premiums enough to cover it.
So now they're just going to cap what they're going to cover. This is very similar to what our health insurance did when the Affordable Care Act went through. Supposedly, It's not. Everything government does is backwards. It's not affordable, and it's not caring.
Right.
But it's called the Affordable Care Act. So what it did is if you have no pre-existing conditions in the Affordable Care Act, now all of a sudden everybody's going to pay for everybody's pre-existing condition. That's socialism.
Yeah.
That's not individualism. That's what made America.
Many insurances too now have to cover transgender surgeries and care, and that actually came out of the Affordable Care Act. I didn't realize that until here recently when I was investigating a piece. But the roots for that, some of the funding through health insurance for that came through the Affordable Care Act.
And the continued hormones that those people have to take once they make that transition are paid by the drug that the Medicare Part D bill that President Bush put through. So Obama, this isn't Democrat Republican. This is just bad government policies that have put us in a bad position.
Right. So you have the government policies driving up the cost of health care, but then you also got a moral dilemma in what is forced by the government to be covered by health insurance companies. And so this again causes people that have especially Christian beliefs to look for a group where they can go outside of that system and avoid supporting things like that. And so that's one reason that our family, stopped carrying, traditional health insurance, and we switched to a faith-based sharing program to help cover unexpected health expenses. Obviously, we're not going to entirely get rid of the cost of high healthcare expenses because, as the government has gotten involved in that, it affects the picture for everybody. But we can, get out of the system that pays for things that we don't believe in, like transgender surgeries.
And here's one of the things that I like about our faith-based sharing program, MediShare. MediShare negotiates every doctor bill, every hospital bill. They don't just say, oh, let's pay it because it will be more cost effective for us to pay this $15,000 bill than to litigate it or to mitigate it.
Don't
but
rubber
they
stamp
don't.
it.
Every one of them, they mitigate, they get down and they negotiate, and that keeps everybody health insurance lower,
You're bringing
whether
some
they're doing
accountability.
Medicare or not.
You're bringing some accountability back into the process.
So this kind of reminds me of a few years ago, Tom, when we went to the emergency room because you had actually stabbed yourself with a knife accidentally, and we went there and we were there for several hours. You had stopped the bleeding. We were there for several hours, getting no closer to being seen, and you. Having a medical background, understanding of physiology as a chiropractor, you said, Michelle, I think I can just take care of this at home. Let's leave. But then, a few weeks later, you got a bill. And there were all kinds of things on there that you knew the codes and you said, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. And you yourself negotiated because of that bill, all the things they were charging you for that never happened in that emergency room.
We brought that bill down from $3,500 to less than $800 simply because I said, I'm going to turn you in for services that you said you did that you did not do on me. The only thing that they did to me was to check me in at the nurse's station, and that cost $700 and some odd dollars. But I couldn't get out of that one because I actually did check into the emergency. I just hadn't had any services provided.
So you, as the payer of this, you were able to go in, you had the information, and you were able to get this corrected. And this is something that MediShare does for the people under them. They want to negotiate. They want to make sure that they are paying fair prices for their people in this MediShare group. And so they negotiate those fees before they just put them out there for all the members to absorb.
Okay, so I have to share this good news. MediShare is running a special right now. If you are not on Social Security or on Medicare, if you are younger than 62, then you right now waive the $50 application fee to get with MediShare.
Yeah, so you can apply for MediShare, and you get the $50 fee waived. Yeah, you go ahead. I'll pick up here after.
And on top of that, waiving of the application fee, you're going to get 10% off your first year of sharing medical expenses. So that is the way that we pay our premiums, quote unquote, in MediShare. It's not a premium because it's not a true insurance company. It's a Christian faith-based sharing program, so your share will be 10% less than it would be for the first year. That has to be done before January 1st. So you can't sit on your haunches here and wait around. You got to get going if you want to save $50 on the application and 10% on the first year of your MediShare sharing expenses.
Right, and this is going to be for anyone that's less than age 65 and not on Medicare.
Yeah. So what happens to those people that are above 60 or that are 65 and that are on Medicare? Well, there's a special opportunity for you too, but you need to call our office at 702-660-7000. Tell us that you're 65 or on Medicare and you want to look at the MediShare program, and we'll get you connected so that you too can participate in this mutual benefit that is helping drive down the cost of healthcare in our country.
But it isn't for everybody because it's only for people who are Christians. They do need to sign like an affidavit or something like that.
Statement of faith.
Statement of faith. Yeah. But if you are a Christian, hey, this is a benefit that you can share in. And,
That's right. And so I will put a link for those of you below 65 that want to apply online, get that $50 application fee waived. You can use that link to apply and get that offer, or give us a call if you're over 65, 702-660-7000.
All right, and I'm just thinking and going back to what we were talking about earlier with insurance and the government and government control and all of that. And I thought of Zig Ziglar. We used to listen to his messages, and I remember when he was going on a diet, he wanted to lose a certain amount of weight, and he had met with his doctor, and his doctor told him he could eat anything he wanted. And then he gave him a list of all the things he was going to want. And the government...
Positive approach.
Yeah, but when we look at the government will tell us, hey, you can have all of this, just like that in California. Oh, you're not going to have any higher premiums. Oh, wonderful. That sounds so great. But now they don't have nearly the coverage that the things that they want because they cap premium. And so the government wants to tell us, oh, you're going to have a fine retirement. And here's what you're going to have. This is the fine retirement that you wanted. But if we don't want the government to dictate to us what we're going to have, then we have to take action on our own to improve our choices, to improve the situation that we want for ourselves. We can be satisfied with just what the government would have for us, but if we have a desire for more than what the government deems necessary for us, then we have to position ourselves in a place to have that more.
And here's the problem. What the government says you can have today is going to be less tomorrow.
Yes. This is
always,
what you can have now,
historically,
and then later,
always, yes.
Oh, this is what you can have now.
Yeah, always. It's always going to be less tomorrow. So that's what we like about MediShare. It is helping regulate government like we the people were designed to do. That's what we like about participating in whole life insurance. It gives us the power as individuals to take control of our own life, to silently fight back against the regulations, the taxation, and the tyranny of government. So give us a call, 702-660-7000, and we can help you with MediShare or with your life insurance.
That's right. If you haven't figured out already, this philosophy, whether it's, talking about the MediShare group, whether it's talking about using life insurance as a financial tool, whether it's talking about managing your personal finances in general, the value set, the philosophy that's behind us, it's all biblically rooted. And you can get a little bigger picture of that if you get our book, A Biblical Guide to Personal Finance. You can get that book when you call our office at 702-660-7000. Or you can get it on our website, mcpheeinsurance.com. You are listening to Wealth Talks with the McPhees. Have a wonderful week.